What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the WBO welterweight world champion, who is widely considered the number one fighter in the world, Terence Bud Crawford, made mention that he could possibly go up to 154, junior middleweight, and challenge for a world title, as he says that he has a lot of interest and he's intrigued by moving up from the welterweight 147-pound limit to the junior welterweight, junior middleweight, or super welterweight 154-pound limit and challenge and become a world champion. If he does so, he has the WBO sanction body. He held the WBO sanction body at junior welterweight and at welterweight and at lightweight, okay, at 135. So with that said, if he did move up to 154, he will become the instant mandatory challenger. Should now two-time junior middleweight world champion, who is the unified WBC, IBF, WBA, Ring Magazine, junior middleweight world champion, superstar boxer, Jermell Lions Only Charlo, who's looking to secure a showdown, an undisputed showdown with Castano, who just beat Teixeira for the WBO title. Now, Castano and Jermell Charlo seem to be on the road to colliding with one another for undisputed, as they're both with the PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, with advisor and founder Al Heyman. With that said, Jermell Charlo, is 34 wins, 1 loss, which he avenged, 18 wins by way of knockout. He's 30 years of age. He stands at 5'11" with a 73-inch arm reach. Last time we saw him in the ring was September 26th when he stopped Jason Rosario in a unification bout. Okay. With that said, he's much bigger, obviously, than Terence Bud Crawford. But Terence Crawford, oddly enough, has very long arms. Terence Crawford, is 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. Okay. Terence Crawford is 37-0, 28 wins by way of knockout. He's 33 years of age. And the last time we saw him in the ring was November 14th when he stopped former IBF welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer Special K, Kell Brook, in their showdown. With that said, Terence Crawford, if he did move up to fight Jermell Charlo, or should I say for a world title at 154, and Jermell Charlo, by the time he moves up, fights and beats Castano, as he would be the favorite to beat Castano, okay? If he did beat Castano, he would be the WBO belt holder. The WBO sanction body, if you move up in weight and you hold their belt previously at a lower weight class without losing it on the scales or in the ring, they automatically move you to the front of the line, meaning that Terence Crawford would be the mandatory challenger for Jermell Charlo. This would be a super fight, Terence Crawford versus Jermell Charlo. Now, obviously, everybody's going to lean to Jermell Charlo because Jermell Charlo is the much bigger guy. He fights at a much naturally higher weight class, and he's been fighting bigger guys his entire career. And Jermell Charlo is very, very versatile, okay? Jermell Charlo can box. He's a pure boxer. Before he started getting all these knockouts recently, as of late, previously he was seen as the pure boxer, as his identical twin brother, who is a 2-division world champion and the reigning WBC undefeated middleweight world champion, superstar boxer Jermell Lions Only Charlo. He was seen as the boxer puncher, the bigger puncher. And since then, as of late, Jermell Charlo has been on a tear, knocking out multiple of his opponents. He stopped Tony Harrison, in his rematch after he lost a controversial loss to Tony Harrison. He stopped Jason Rosario in his last fight. He got highlight knockout reels over his career. Jermell Charlo, definitely has turned, into a pure boxer. Okay, into a boxer puncher. He knocked out Jorge Cota. He knocked out Tony Harrison. He knocked out Jason Rosario. His last 3 fights have all been brutal knockouts. Okay, the loss to Tony Harrison was controversy. A lot of controversy surrounded it. Prior to that, he knocked out Eric Salubin. He knocked out Charles Hatley. He knocked out John Jackson. He knocked out Al Cid. And prior to that, before the Alcine fight, he was seen as a pure boxer, a boxer puncher. Okay. Outside of that, in between that, he had a majority decision victory over Austin Trout, who's very durable and is very hard to knock out. You're not going to knock out Austin Trout. Okay, so with that said, yes, Austin Trout has 4 losses on his resume. He's been knocked out 1 time in his career. But a stoppage loss in his career. But for the most part, Austin Trout is very, very durable. Okay, between Austin Trout and the Tony Harrison fight, which went obviously in the direction of Tony Harris, the first fight, he's been on a tear, getting knockouts, brutal knockouts. Oddly enough, Terence Crawford in his last 6 fights have been on the same similar tear, knocking out brutal opponents. Now, the difference is the level of opponents. That's what's different. Okay, Tony Harrison, you have Jason Rosario. These guys are seen on a higher level. Terence Crawford, yes, he did knock out Kell Brook. Mir Khan in his last 6 fights, he knocked out Julius Ndongo for Undisputed. That was at junior welterweight 140. Then he knocked out and stopped Jeff Horn when he moved up to welterweight for the WBO title. Then he knocked out Jose Benavidez. Then he stopped Amir Khan. Then he knocked out Igor Kavalauskas. And then he just recently knocked out Kell Brooks. So his last 6 fights have been highlight reel knockouts as well. The difference is the level of opponent, okay? Tony Harrison is a much better fighter, I believe, than any of those guys that Terence Crawford had previously knocked out on his resume. I also believe that, maybe Jason Rosario and and Jose Benavidez are on a similar, path. Jason Rosario, he came out of nowhere when he stopped and knocked out, Julian J-Rock Williams. That was an upset victory in Julian Williams' backyard, in the unification bout. In the unification, because, Julian Williams had multiple belts on the line. Okay, so, he came out of nowhere. So maybe not as high as it seemed, but the Tony Harrison knockout was very, very impressive. Charles Hatley knockout was very impressive. So one can argue, but you feel like Jermell Charlo is fighting a better opposition. With that said, you bring them together. Obviously Jermell Charlo standing at nearly 6 feet tall, Terence Crawford at 5'8". That's 3-inch height advantage for Jermell Charlo. But the funny part is, oddly enough, Terence Crawford has a 74-inch arm reach to Jermell Charlo's 73. So Terence Crawford has longer arms, and Terence Crawford, I believe, is more agile than Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo is more flat-footed at times. He can utilize the ring if he so chooses, but he's more flat-footed for the most part. But Terence Crawford, if he so chooses, he's more versatile, I believe, than Jermell Charlo. But Jermell Charlo has a great jab, and we saw that Terence Crawford struggled with Kell Brooks' jab, okay? He turned southpaw, he figured it out, but he had trouble with Kell Brooks' jab, and Kell Brook is not as big, as rangy, or as strong, or as precise, as technical as Jermell Charlo. Now, Terence Crawford, obviously, is very versatile. He can switch from southpaw to orthodox. He can utilize the ring if he so chooses. He can box great, but as of late, he likes to mix it up. And if he chooses to try to mix it up with Jermell Charlo, I think it would be a long night for Terence Crawford, right? Terence Crawford will have to make it a high-level, high-quality chess match, okay? Like he did with Jose Benavidez. Because Jose Benavidez, obviously, is not on the level of Jermell Charlo. I'm talking about his game plan will have to be somewhat similar to that game plan of when he beat Jose Benavidez, because Jose Benavidez is very big, very rangy, has a lot of power, and has a great jab. Not to the level of Jermell Charlo, obviously. I know people are going to say, are you comparing Jose Benavidez to Jermell Charlo? No, I'm not. Jose Benavidez, 27 wins at the time, 0 losses and 18 wins by way of knockout. Obviously, his 1 loss on his resume comes at Terence Crawford, but he stands at 6 feet tall with a 73-inch arm reach, okay? That is eerie similar to Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo, 5'11" and a half, nearly 6 feet with a 73-inch arm reach, okay? So, and with power, I believe that, Jose Benavidez has a lot of power as well. So, with that said, this put, this would have to be a similar game plan that Terence Crawford would have to incorporate to beat Jermell Charlo. And he struggled at times with Jose Benavidez. If you go back and watch the fight between Jose Benavidez and Terence Crawford, he struggled with the distance, with the timing, with the range of Jose Benavidez. And like I said, Jose Benavidez is not nearly as technical and doesn't have nearly as much power as Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo is very, very capable of this, the way he delivers his power, is very precise, right? He's very accurate. So he's very capable of being a pure boxer if he so chooses and needs to, but he also can mix it up with you on the inside. Now, I know people will point to, well, Tony Harrison was outboxing Jermell Charlo as well. Well, the difference is Tony Harrison and Terence Crawford. Now, I believe Terence Crawford may have more power than Tony Harrison does. But the difference is Tony Harrison is a very, very good pure boxer, but he's much bigger than Terence Crawford, and he's even bigger than Jermell Charlo. Tony Harrison, and he has power in his 31 fights. He has 21 knockouts, okay? But he stands at 6'1" with a 77-inch arm reach. So he has a 3-inch arm reach advantage over Jermell Charlo, and he has a 2-inch height advantage over Jermell Charlo. So, he's more rangy and he's quick on his feet. So, he's more rangy than Terence Crawford. He's bigger than Jermell Charlo. Terence Crawford is going to be he's going to be at a disadvantage when it comes up against Jermell Charlo physically. Physical attributes with Tony Harrison, he was at an advantage over Jermell Charlo. That's the difference. So yes, he does have a long arm reach, but Terence Crawford would have to be disciplined for 12 rounds. But again, if he can't secure a fight with the biggest fight in the sport of boxing against undefeated WBC, IBF, welterweight world champion superstar boxer who happens to be Jermell Charlo's stablemate and train with the same trainer, legendary trainer of the year, Derrick James, Errol the True Spence Jr., this would be the next super fight for Terence Crawford. And I believe if Terence Crawford was to go to 154, this would be the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, not named Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. This would be a huge, huge fight. This would be a super fight for Jermell Charlo and for Terence Crawford, right? So with that said, like I said, if Jermell Charlo is able to secure the fight, as I expect him to, against Castano for Undisputed, I'm expecting him to beat Castano for that belt. I'm expecting Terence Crawford, if he moved up, he would be the mandatory challenger. Should Terence Crawford take this opportunity? Let me know what y'all think. Hit that like button. Smash the like button. Let me know what y'all think. Drop a comment in the comment section. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shouts out to the entire LDBC. Shouts out to New Media. Shouts out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.